Okay, we're going to take a look at the exercise 2-4, and I apologize to all of you that view this. You're viewing it because you're having trouble constructing this one, and I'm really behind schedule on getting this to you. Exercise 2-4, the sensor mount. If you would, open your book and be looking at that along with me. The construction of this requires some other types of geometric construction not actually physically covered in the textbook, and this problem is new to the book and kind of sneaked up behind me. So let us begin by starting up a inch drawing, and let's set our units to 3 places. So let's, after you've started up an inch drawing from scratch, we will go to the units command. And in here, we will look at setting the type to decimal and the precision to 3 places. And probably won't be using angles, but I always like to set my precision to 1 or 2 places for my degrees. Then let's go to our grid and snap settings, which will be useful for this one. And we will set our snap setting to 1/8 of an inch. So it'd be 0.125. And then our grid spacing, I usually like it 2 times my snap. We'll see how that looks. Remember, you can change this at any time. And we'll turn off display grid beyond limits, and we can leave adaptive grid turned on. That works pretty good. We'll turn on our grid and turn on our snap up here. Click OK. Then you need to perform a zoom all. So Z, enter, A, enter, and then hover in the middle of the screen and click out once, and then in once to get the zoom just large enough to be able to work at the beginning. I'll be, of course, changing that, and you, of course, should zoom and pan as needed while you're drawing. You always want to get your screen up large enough to where you can see the detail or the snap that you're using. When I look at the object that we're drawing, you need to think about it in terms of where is a good start point and how can I construct this object using absolute coordinates or relative coordinates or direct distance entry. It'll take you a couple of times. I'm going to go through it. I may stop and restart, and there will be more than one part to this video, or so that because it'll run long and get rather large. So let's look at starting at the rectangular portion. Let's draw that base first. So I'm going to start down here at the corner of the object on the left-hand side, and we'll just draw a line. We'll start on this grid point here. Looks like a good place. We'll do direct distance entry. Whoops, be sure you're going orthographic, so you might press the F8 key on your keyboard to force it orthographically, and we'll type 4 for our distance. Oops, I had typed 4 already, so I'll undo, type U, enter, and 4, enter. Then it goes up 1.5 inches. We go back over to our end of our line and start the line command again. And since we have snap turned on, we can return right to the beginning of that line, that coordinate, pick, and go up 1.5. Okay, that's got our base. Now we want to place the circles. And the circles are 1 inch on the X from the corner and 0.75 up. I'm now going to show you a very useful command to help place points. There's other ways to do this. You can use snap from. You can type ID, enter, that's identification, and it actually resets a point last entered, and it also, of course, identifies a coordinate. So we'll get right over that snap point and press enter. Now, if you look in the command line, and yours might be on the bottom of the graphics area, so you'll need to expand it to be able to see it. But your X point is 3.75, your Y is 1.25, and of course your Z is going to be 0 because we're not doing 3D. So that's your last point entered now. That's stored in AutoCAD. So when I use the relative coordinate symbol, the @ sign, it will remember that as the last point entered. So I'm going to place my circle, which is 1 on the X and 0.75 on the Y. So I'll go to circle. It'll ask for my center point, and I'll say @ sign, and I'll go 1 and comma, and then 0.75. Enter. And then it wants to know the radius, and the radius is 0.5. Right? Now the center of that circle becomes my last point entered. So I want to draw a circle over here. So I'm going to do circle and relative move. I'm going to go over 2 inches on the X, and now 0 on the Y because I want it to be directly across from it. And then it's going to use the same radius, so I just press enter. Alright, the next object will be the center of that larger circle at the top, what looks like some kind of hoop racetrack almost. So it is 5.5 inches from the bottom, and we have to do a little math, so we'll subtract the distance from one circle that we just entered from the bottom, which is 0.75. We'll subtract that from the total distance from the bottom to the circle, 5.5. So 5.5 minus 0.75 is 4.75. Okay, X that off. And now I go to circle, and my relative move will be on the X. I'm going to go back 1 inch to the center. So I type 1, comma, and then 4.75 on the Y. Oops, I forgot to put the negative sign in. So I'll have to undo that operation. And so I'll escape and undo. Let's type circle from last point entered. We'll go -1, comma, 4.75. Okay, my last point entered was altered, so I'm glad I'm making some of these mistakes, some that you might make. So let's reset our center of our circle as our last point entered. So ID, and that looks like the center, but to be sure, we'll type CEN, enter, and hover near the edge of the circle to turn on the center snap point, and then snap. All right, now let's try that again. Circle and relative move, -1, comma, 4.75. Success. And the radius is 0.75. Okay, now we want to do another circle at that same location. So I'll go circle and the center point. Many different ways to do that. To find that center point, I'm just going to go from the last point entered, 0, 0, and then the radius for it is 1.5. Alright, so that gives us the foundation for the rest of our arc drawing that we need to do. We will need a line that starts at 2.25 from the bottom and basically intersects our two inside circles. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and start up part 2.